Language. This presentation is about language and meaning. Introduction: critical thinking and creativity. Critical thinking is thinking clearly and rationally. As for creativity, it's a matter of coming up with new and useful ideas, generating alternative possibilities. Below are some importance of critical thinking. It promotes creativity. It is crucial for self-reflection. It is the foundation of science and a liberal democratic. Ambiguity. It is when the meaning of a word, phrase, or sentence is uncertain. There could be more than one meaning. Typically, it is best to avoid ambiguity in your writing. When you make statements that are ambiguous, you confuse the reader and hinder the meaning of the text. However, sometimes ambiguity is used deliberately to add humor to a text. Examples of ambiguity: she gave a bath to her dog wearing a pink t-shirt. Ambiguity: is a dog wearing the pink t-shirt? I have never tasted a cake quite like that one before. Ambiguity: was the cake good or bad? Did you see her dress? Ambiguity: is she getting dressed or they are talking about her? Vagueness: it means not clearly or expressed. Vagueness involved a terms of lack of precision. Vague statements often beg a follow-up question. For example, if you write or say he didn't live up to my expectations, these vague statements will beg the question, well, what were your expectations? Likewise, if you were to write or say he was prone to worse behavior than that, the likely result would be like what? Review your words, phrase, and sentences to make them as clear and precise as possible. Add the follow-up sentence to crystallize your meaning if it helps you to do so. Don't place the reader or listener in the position of assuming. Definitions. Definitions are very useful in explaining and clarifying meaning. A typical definition has two parts: the differendum, the term being explained, for example, a tourist, a person who travels to a place of pleasure; the definiens, the words that define the differendum. People often use "is" instead of the equality sign in giving definitions. For example, a tourist is a person who travels to a place of pleasure. Some terminology. A term is referring expression in a language made up of one or more words, such as the African Union, red, mammals. We can divide definitions into three kinds according to their purpose: stipulative, reportive, and stipulative definition is a type of definition in which new or currently existing term is given a new specific meaning for the purposes of argument or discussion in a given context. When the term already exists, this definition may but does not necessarily contradict the dictionary definition of the term. Because of this, a stipulative definition cannot be correct or incorrect. It can only differ from other definitions, but it can be useful for its intent. Reportive definition is also known as a lexical definition. It supports the existing meaning of a term. This includes the tourist example above, or the definition of prime number as referring to any integer divisible only by 1 in itself. A reportive definition should capture the correct usage of the term that is defined. First, many words in the language are difficult, if not impossible, to define. This includes, for example, color words, which we learned from examples. A dictionary might explain red as the color of 5 tomatoes, but obviously that's not what red means. Red does not mean blue, even if all tomatoes suddenly were to become blue when they ripe. Explaining red as a certain shade of color is of course not enough to distinguish the color red from different colors. A correct reportive definition should not be too wide or precising definition. It's a definition that extends the lexical definition of a term for a specific purpose by including additional criteria that narrow down the set of things meeting the definition. For example, a dictionary may define the term student as 1. Anyone attending an educational institution of any type, or 2. Anyone who studies something. However, a movie theater may propose a precising definition for the word student of any person under the age of 18 enrolled in a local school in order to determine who is eligible to receive discounted tickets. Precising definitions are generally used in content where vagueness is unacceptable. Many legal definitions are precising definitions, as are company policies. This type of definition is useful in preventing disputes that arise from the involved parties using different definitions of the term in question. A precising definition is intended to make a value read more precise so that the word's meaning is not left to the interpretation of the reader or listener. Here is an example. From a class syllabus, class participating means attending class, listening attentively, participating in class discussion. This is similar to stipulative definition but differs in that a stipulative definition may contradict the lexical definition, while a precising definition use and mention. The use and mention is confusing the word used to describe a thing with the thing itself. To avoid this error, it is necessary to put the word used to describe the thing in quotes. This fallacy is most common when used as an equivocation. Logical form. K is the same as K. Example 1. My cat is made up of 5 letters. Explanation. The word mentioned, my cat, are made up of 5 letters. My cat use is an consistency and inconsistency. Consistency measures the interaction between the values of two or more functionally related attributes. It also helps think logically consistency as a set of beliefs that do not contradict each other regardless of whether it's true or not. Example, Abraham Lincoln is my mother. Abraham Lincoln is your mother. The two are consistent with each other, but not with facts, such as the fact that a Lincoln isn't the mother of either of us. Inconsistency. In terms of a fallacious argument, two or more propositions are asserted that cannot both possibly be true. In a more general sense, holding two or more views or beliefs that cannot all be true together. Example, I didn't attend the funeral but I sent a nice letter saying I approved it. I win. These are inconsistencies with our expectations as Irene joked about approving the implication. It is a suggestion of something that is made without saying it directly. For instance, if you make a promise, you imply that you will keep it. Again, implication can be used in a sentence. For example, Abina hiding of a report card gave me the implication she had failed one of her courses. There are three kinds of implications and they are possible ones, probable ones, and necessary ones. An argument must not be accepted if it seems correct on the surface or matches your point of view. Instead, think through the implications of the equivalence. It is a logical fallacy in which two completely opposing arguments appear to be logically equivalent when in fact they are not. This fallacy is categorized as a fallacy of inconsistency, necessary truth, and necessary falsehood. A necessary truth is a true statement whose negation must imply a contradiction in reality, such that the negation would be impossible. So if 1 plus 1 equals 2 is a necessary truth, then the statement 1 plus 1 does not equal 2 will imply a contradiction. Given the meanings of 1 and 2, we can immediately see that the addition of two ones always does yield 2, yet the statement 1 plus 1 does not equal 2 contradicts this. It's incomprehensible that 1 plus 1 should ever add to anything but 2. So 1 plus 1 equals 2 is commonly held to be a necessary truth, with its negation being impossible. A necessary falsehood is a proposition that is false in all possible worlds. A contingent truth is a proposition true but false in at least contingent truth and contingent false. Contingent truth. A truth is a true statement whose negation does not imply a contradiction in reality, such that the negation could have been the case. So if John married Jessica last Sunday is a contingent truth, then the statement John did not marry Jessica last Sunday could have been true without implying a contradiction in reality. Since John could have chosen not to marry Jessica or to have married her on a different day, we can see that this is indeed contingent truth. Contingent falsehood. A contingent falsehood is a false proposition that could have been true, that is false in the actual world but true in at least. In conclusion, definitions and languages improve one's understanding and makes reading more clearer. Thank you.